A very good day to everyone. In the Children's Literature in the Classroom, Engaging Lifelong Learners book by Diane M. Barone, the author starts off by opining the definition of children's literature, how children's literature has evolved throughout the years, as well as her own literature reading and teaching experiences. Barone delves into the proposition of reading for multiple purposes and further into the related theories, studies, and applicable class activities that accompany them. This book also provides helpful and multitudinous activity sheets that can serve as guidance for teachers to implement them in their own literature classroom. Later in this audio essay, we are going to discover the prominent key elements and also their contribution to varied parties, Malaysian education system particularly. By acknowledging the pertinence of children's literature in educational scene, teachers are ought to engage lifelong readers by experimenting with different kinds of reading approaches.
In Chapter 1, Emotional and Intellectual Connections to Literature as Triggers for Children to Read Further. For example, picture books being read aloud with textual and visual elements. Children's literature to teach reading for disparate purposes, to read, pleasure, background knowledge, engage in conversation, and solve problems. The current trends in children's books are in tandem with the advent of technology, including the development of picture storybooks that have multimedia components and written on the internet. In Chapter 2, reading aloud strategy is proposed for fiction books by selecting good books and classroom location. Independent reading can be practiced by doing pre-selection, getting supports from school or community libraries, writing of journal entries, one-on-one conversations, and also imposing the right questions to initiate conversation. Teachers need a variety of books that range from easy to difficult for student choice. They can also include magazines and internet sites to expand the traditional resources available. Teachers can also make books on CD available. Students can listen to this until they develop sufficient skills to read independently. Reader responses can be expressed physically through body language or facial expressions on what students think or feel, and from the comments of others, in written form through dialogue journals, and artistically through sketches. In Chapter 3, teachers can consider exposing alphabet books, counting books, engineered or interactive books, and wordless books to young children. Traditional literature also serves as an option for reading materials in the forms of folktales, myths, fables, legends. Other narrative genres awaiting to be explored by both teachers and students of literature include fantasy, poetry, historical fiction, postmodern picture books, as well as school-based literature. In Chapter 5, it focuses on the elements that are identified as qualities of narrative text, which are plot, characters, settings, theme, style, and point of view. Teachers can introduce students the journey of the plot is written, starting from exposition, complication, climax, resolution, and denouement. The visualization of this could be a help for the students to understand better. Text can trigger their emotions and senses, which can be related with past experiences. Activities such as open-ended discussion allows a variety of interpretations from the students. Different people, different perspectives. The visualization on how to build connections between all these elements by using current technology is quite interesting in making the journey of identifying themes, plot, characters, style, setting, and point of view of the text more intriguing.
Google Lit Trips can also serve 21st century literature classroom, whereby students can pay a virtual visit to the world of the book they have read sets in.
Overall emotional feeling conveyed by the book by what the characters say and do, the author's voice, what the book adds up to. In Chapter 6, 21st century learners have been adapted to the advancement of technology in their learning process, which it can be easier for the teachers to use technology in approaching on how the qualities of visual representation or illustration can affect students' ability to easily understand. The usage of picture books helps the text and illustrations to complement one another. Text may reveal parts of the story which are not shared in illustrations and vice versa. Each book is a performance waiting to happen, like musical notes written on a page but not yet played. In Chapter 7, the focus is on the genre of boys' books would be action and adventure, while for the girls, it would be something that they can gain from the characters in developing their personal development, in which the teacher might have overlooked in completing both genders' need in literature. And in the last chapter, which is Chapter 9, students' response can foster engagement and more reflective contemplation of reading through exploration about more extensive text sets. For instance, retell, offer immediate responses, predict the next element of a plot, and describe a character or setting. In developing students' critical reading skills, teachers have been given options to apply critical reading response frame, alpha box for wolves, and personal connections, where it can trigger the creative and critical thinking skills and relate them with their past experience.
In conclusion, this book would inevitably benefit teachers of literature as they are able to experiment with different reading strategies to nurture lifelong learners from tender age. Secondly, students of literature are able to pick their interest in learning literature as well as to prepare themselves for lifelong learning. Last but not least, the Malaysian education system at large will be able to ruminate on more pragmatic and effective strategies for literature classrooms. These are in line to the concepts in Standard Curriculum for Primary Schools or KSSR, which promote a child's holistic development and also lifelong education.